Um, so one thing I will say is that most of the time, this isn't exactly what you want to run. There's a specific reason that they were doing it.
Okay.
Generally, for most okay, so actually, hold on, let me do this, make it easier to see.
Into the sun. Perfect.
Exactly. See, you get it, you get it. The way you play this composition is completely centered around the queen, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
What support duo on most maps do you want to have with the queen?
Carry Lucio.
Yep, 99% of the time it's going to be that. Sometimes you can play a Moira, but that's really going to be when either you've got a goated Moira, which is what he thinks he is, even though he's not,
Okay.
or you are playing in a very brawl-centric type of map, so like Control Center on Lijiang.
Mm-hmm.
You can still play. This is a very strong comp right now, just across the maps. So if you play this on something that's very brawl-based, you can get the Moira because she just gets like the easy left-click heal value, and like the proximity damage and all that kind of stuff. But anything that has any amount of openness to it, where you want to be fast or you could have a dive element or something like that, you're gonna want to play Kiri most of the time. Okay.
Okay.
So that's typically how it's going to be. Let me clear that out for easy visuals. Okay. And then for a DPS, what kind of options do we have?
Yep.
That's almost the most must pick of the game right now. Huge value. The most leeway that we have with this comp is going to be in your other DPS and whoever that's going to be. So who are our options?
Soldier?
Soldier.
So
Ash.
that'll be Shark.
You could try Soldier.
I don't like him though. I'm gonna be real.
Okay, these are going to be your best bets most of the time. I would prioritize picking between these three, if possible.
Okay.
Again, you want to be more divey, you go with the Tracer Genji for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You want to have the most balanced approach. Tracer Sojourn is going to give you a lot of balance because she can manage or mitigate that brawl to tempo to like assassination modes really well. She can switch very quickly. She can keep pace with the Tracer pretty well while still being a big damage supplier, right?
Okay.
Sombras, so for the people who want to be sneaky, she obviously has a lot of better damage now than she used to, and she's a little bit less sneaky than she used to, a little more frontliney. But the idea is that if she's being played in a highly coordinated fashion, then you can get good value with that too. But most of the time, you're probably going to want this is your core Tracer Sojourn.
Okay.
With some of these as other options. How does this kind of work as a group? So we have our Junker Queen, who's going to be with the. I mean, I kind of just put it on the screen, but still,
The supports.
your Lucio and Kiro. This is our core for our team. You control the tempo. You control where we take our team fights, where we're moving. Our entire team plays based around this right here. Tracer, and we'll just say the Sojourn, are responsible for opposite angles attacking. So if your enemy is right here, you guys walk into them with no fear, and then you two take the slide off angles and kind of pinch on them here and collapse whoever your target is. You just walk on them at the same time and get that kill. Make sense?
Okay.
So something we've seen in the past is other teams' Lucios will play more with the Soj instead of with the Queen.
Yeah.
Would you generally not recommend that then?
Correct. Most of the time. Reason being, who is with our team who can kind of keep, because our DPS should not be so far out that they're unreachable, right? So who can keep our DPS up without leaving the core?
Kiri.
Yeah. Right, she can kind of throw the heals over, and then if she absolutely has to, because you're just critical and the whole team is moving on them, and we have a bad angle, then you can maybe like TP Suzu, get him back out. Lucio can the core moves over to help speed you out, something like that, and that's like in a critical situation. But for the most part, like Lucio is really strong right now, and it's not because of his heals, right?
Yeah.
His kit is really good because he can most of the time, no matter what, like let's just say we're playing Diva for whatever reason, and if we want like a Diva with her and we have a Lucio, they're tied. Like the Lucio and the tank are just really closely tied right now because he provides the speed for the tank. Both of their damages combined, whoever the tank is usually pretty good at actually getting kills. So they just kind of double team it wherever they go and share resources. Lucio gets protection from the tank, and they just kind of move in and get the kills together. So generally, you're going to want to do that. Kiri can be responsible for keeping DPS alive as necessary. So the way you want to control the tempo for this is you want to like use corners and lines of sight as much as possible to close the distance to your opponents. If they're poke or whatever, especially for obvious reasons, but generally just going to want to try to move in as close as you can. As soon as you go to engage, first thing you do is queen press shift to get shout. You get the speed momentum, you get the health boost, you go in and you're overhealed for the fight, right? You go in, you try to get the kill. If you do, sweet, you keep rolling and you snowball from target to target to target. It's extremely tempo based like that, right? If you go in and you can't get the kill or they sustain it really well or something and you're like, wow, this was a bad call, we need to get back out or whatever, suddenly Lucio's speed then takes over while shift is still on cooldown. So you don't speed in, you save it to escape. Kiri uses Suzu to sustain you as you go out. Typically that is going to be how it works, and it tends to work pretty well. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of a general overview of how you're going to want to play a comp like that. So with what we have, did we do the Moira because of the mirror element?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so the only thing that changes with it, because again you can play her just typically on more brawly things, but it's you really cannot leave like for 2 seconds the area. Sometimes Lucio can kind of get a quick loop-de-loop to get right back into like he leaves, wall rides behind the team, boops them into the queen, and then lands with our core again really quickly, something like that. With the Moira, if you are just on anybody other than who your tank's on, if you're not consistently doing the heals or whatever, you're also a main target for the enemies, so it's a little bit harder, but it doesn't change terribly how we want to play it.
So in that, like the comp that you described, what's the target priority?
Okay, so generally, or like what we have here with what we're running into.
So
like
go ahead.
Like you mean with this?
Just
is
generally.
the target priority here, or just
generally
across the board? Okay, so most of the time it's going to be either the supports, whoever is going to be the more walkable one.
Okay.
The way that the game is going to be played, generally speaking, no matter what the comp is, it used to be just a couple months ago where it was very sustain focused. So like Orisa was a decent pick, and you would see a lot of BAP, Lucio combos because it was very hard. I will outlast you was the concept of the game. Right now, it's really seeming to have shift from I will outlast you to I will out aggress or be out aggro you and kill you first before you have a chance to live. So in that mentality, it can get messy sometimes, but you need to go in. Whichever support is more walkable, try to get to them. If they use their cooldowns to get away or whatever, that you just adapt to whoever's in front of you and try to get that kill and make it work. But your fight plan is usually going to be to take a line of sight where you can get to the team, because you don't have really much range with this, right?
Yeah.
The closest you're going to have is the Sojourn. So get close to proximity, go for one of their supports. Probably the Kiri, if you see the Kiri use TP at all or Suzu something like that, then you're gonna want to tempo onto her.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry, just because we are looking at specifics, in a JQ versus JQ, should we just walk past the other queen to try and kill the support then?
Pretty much.
Ooh, scary. Okay.
Like it sounds ridiculous, right? You're
Yeah.
like that's not great. But like when you play monkey dive with an on a brig, right? Do you just like let the other on a brig exist, or do you dive them as monkey half the time?
Yeah.
You dive.
Right, it's the same.
First.
It's the same kind of idea where you're gonna be, like that meme of the people in the cars passing each other and like, hey, what are you doing? You're gonna do that as the tanks. Just kind of be like, oh hey, I hope I kill yours first, good luck, and see what happens. Now some of them are going to try to force a fight on you first. You take that win, because the tank should almost never be your first target, because they're the juggernauts of the game, right? They have the most health and they're most likely to sustain the most, and that's not even the way you play the game right now anyway. But they're the most likely to just be able to, you know what, I'm gonna live because I'm a tank. So if you target them first, unless you like get a good May wall to cut off their resources or something, it's probably not the right call. So yeah, if you play against other high level stuff, you're gonna pass each other and try to get the kill first. If they try to take the fight onto you, then you can adapt accordingly, but it's probably going to be a good thing.
Okay, so in this comp, like us against them, we probably should try to get onto the Moira then.
Yeah, especially if you see her use her fade.
Okay.
Once that happens, it's imperative. Like she is the number one kill for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we realized, but it took us a little longer.
Also, she's like right there. She was so
She
close.
was, but it was just me and you looking at her.
I know.
Okay, so let's hold on.
I guess would you say anything changed based off of what they're running with the Reaper? Like, is it still like Moira first in this scenario?
Yeah, basically what the Reaper's trying to do is no, granted they didn't exactly play this the way that because this is extremely new to them. Two of them were subs, so it's just kind of a weird situation that they were running in that night. But if you play a Reaper here, it's going to be as like a defensive role to kind of protect the president of the tank. So you're sacrificing one of your flank DPS for keeping your tank alive and adding to the power of the core, but that does also kind of leave your other DPS really exposed too, especially if it's something like a tracer, right? So normally it's still the support, but you have to kind of keep the third eye open for the Reaper and just the damage that they're going to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But yeah, like right here, like there's no this Moira really needs to die. I'm gonna tell him that too.
Yeah,
So
we
like send
tried
him a DM,
to.
be like, "How did you live, man?" Okay, so kind of you see how like the way that they're moving is it's not clean, but they're moving together, right? Like the Moira faded into the Reaper,
Yeah.
the Queen and the Tracer are moving together from kind of like behind where you guys moved into. Like they're able to adjust their positioning around where you went to be able to get some value, right? So again, it's not super clean, but that kind of concept is going to be good. Where if you could do that same thing, you have the Genji and the Soldier, right? Between the two of them, who's primarily contributing the damage?
Soldier.
The Soldier. Genji's the clean follow up, right? So Genji's going to be on more of a flank than the Soldier is, but you're going to want to try to get the angles where you can put that pressure on the Moira, and then if she escapes out, Genji, hopefully you can kind of dive in, get the kill on her, while the rest of the team moves on to the next target. Something like that could work pretty well. Okay. All right, so what's going to be our plan of attack here? First off, we need to identify what our path options are.
So we could rotate like far.
Left or right?
Right. We could go far right onto the point, or like up the stairs and stuff.
I can't even tell from this angle. Is it this way or this way?
That way. The first way.
This one here?
The first
This
one.
one here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna get, this is option A. We'll call it. Okay.
Yeah.
What else can we do?
I mean, we can go into them on the left side,
This way.
and then we can go through the like a little room, like right in front of us.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Which of these is going to be your best option with your composition?
I know you have to avoid LOS, which would normally rule out A, but since we're pokier than them, wouldn't that actually be better for us?
That's what I'm thinking too.
With the Soldier?
It could be. I think the worst case scenario that you have is just immediately roll out B, right? Because they have control of the point right now, right? So if you go around this way, they're still playing defensively. They're going to be able to hold you off from contesting the point, and the point goes so quickly in this mode. You're just going to be kind of wasting your time and your resources to go that way. You're right. You are pokier than they are. So if you go around this way, you can kind of play the backup point a little bit and poke into them. The risk that you run is if you don't get a kill fast enough and they rush into you, then you might be screwed. So if you do that, you need just to be really fast with trying to get an elimination. If you go through the C kind of route, you can do the same thing, except you have room to back up. So if you go through here fast enough, you flip the point to where you're able to try to defend it. You can get some upfront brunt damage. You use your shift to sustain through that, whatever, and then as you back up, you can increase that poke element, maintain a little bit of distance between you to take advantage of their lack of range and what you do have, and just kind of like play the tug of war over the point in that sense, with as much reasonable distance as you can manage.
Interesting.
I'm like, does that seem to again make sense? I say this a lot, as you know, but like, does that make sense? Because I can't see faces or anything. So like,
yeah.
we all good, or
Yeah,
anybody
that
have
makes-
doubts or?
Interesting, but we have to be really careful when rotating. We're very
Yeah, because they could
Yeah,
probably
I don't know.
collapse
They
on
can-
us or pinch
yeah
us here
pounce on
with
us
the
pretty
tracer
easily in the
there.
middle. Hmm.
So this is, and that's where your resource management is really important between the shift and the Lucio speed, right?
Hmm.
So you pull out that cycle well, and then you go in this way. Like, so you kind of play the tug of war. You go in this way again. That can work too. It is a very viable option, but you just need to be very decisive with who your first target is and try to get that kill quickly before it can turn into their advantage.
Hmm.
Ooh, shouldn't have used that coal technically, but that's fine. Okay, so why do you think that went the way it did? It's kind of two reasons from what I can see.
We went into him.
Play it again. So, because kind of like we were saying before, your advantage is that you can play at a distance, and they really can't. They have to play close to you, and you kind of threw yourself into their face, right? To be able to make it a lot easier for them to kind of get value out of it. And we couldn't really control much of the tempo because there was no point pressure or anything, so they were in control of it most of the time. So, yeah, I don't need to harp on it too much, but like, does it seem to make sense as far as how that played out the way it did?
Yeah.
Yeah, a question I had during that fight was if
Yeah.
the tracer is flanking behind, normally it is my job as Lucio to kind of like deter her a little. Should I just
Mhm.
ignore that? Here.
Yeah, so most of the time we're going to want one of our DPS to kind of take care of that with some flicks. You don't, so the power of this comp is still the core, which
Okay.
you're still the part of, so, or a key element of it, really. So, yeah, if there's ever a tracer who's kind of flanking off behind or whatever, getting, in this case, it would be the soldier, to just try to get a side angle, put pressure on him, kind of distract, like almost out distract the tracer from being able to distract
Sure.
you guys. Kind of take his attention off you guys, win the rest of the fight. That kind of way it plays out.
Okay.
If you guys, as the core, decide, hey, let's just turn around and speed on the tracer and kind of whatever, if for whatever reason, most of the time you don't make that call. But if you got enough kills, you want to do that, then sure, of course, you go for that. But if you're still, the fight's ongoing, then that'd be more of a soldier thing. Okay, so this is really good for our team. Why is that?
They used a. Oh wait, no, sorry. I was thinking the last one. We're on point.
You're on point, and they split.
And we flipped the map.
Yeah, the positioning was really great, and they were able to and be able to split them off, get the kills. Kind of simplified it pretty easily. But again, watch it. So the Reaper goes in, the Lucio goes out of position. He should be with the Queen, so it goes out of position to try to help that Reaper. It didn't matter, get them both killed anyway. Now it's a 5v3. You're on the point, or 5v4, I guess, because we had a sacrificial loss. I'm so sorry. And then we have control of the point. Like, this is still a big win, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so now that we have the point, we're gonna want to defend it. Where do we play the point? Play up toward here, maybe like this sort of area, maybe back. What kind of areas do we want to look at for how we're gonna hold this?
Because we are more pokey, I guess playing up. Playing in a, so we have to play in a sight line that lets soldier poke. So I guess it would be like at the choke, maybe on the left side here.
Yeah, that's an option. Anywhere, like you said, to take advantage of the lines of sight, but not so far out that you can't pretty immediately get back to the point if you pick the wrong line of sight. So, like, if you wanted to play like around this kind of area and look these ways, you can, but then you got to get right back. I wouldn't even use speed, just like very quickly
Walk.
Like poke at him, but then pull back, something like that. If you want to play here to get that sort of a line of sight, or maybe here, that's fine. You can fall back to the point. That's probably the best option, to be honest,
Okay.
because you can maximize your opportunities for line of sight with some pokes, and then you don't have to use any resources. You just back to point as necessary, right? So this is probably going to be the best call. You don't want to just chill on the point because you're not really going to get any value there except for making the fight happen on the point, which is what they need anyway. So this fight's breaking out, very brawl-esque with the way that it's being played. What's the one difference with like the positioning and the way that we're setting this up versus them?
They're doing like a pinch with the tracer.
Tracer on a pinch.
Yeah, the tracer's the big thing here because we're all tight in this big mess trying to see if we can get a kill first, and then as soon as if this comes from behind it, if the tracer gets any value from it, that's going to be a problem for us. If we get a kill first before the tracer gets value and we're able to move into them, then we do. So it becomes really, you don't necessarily have the information that the tracer's over here. I don't know if that was calmed or what was going on. But if you do know, hey, the tracer's trying to take the flank, or you see her going this direction or whatever, you got to kind of, I don't want to say int, but you got to get super aggressive to get the kill first to make sure that you can maintain the value. Okay. I will say I do remember for sure many times they were saying like the entire existence of Lucio was he was trying to say beat for Blade. Like that was his purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right call? Not always. There were a couple of times where it was the bad call, but it's not bad. Like saving to sustain the Blade is going to be good. So now we have a Genji here. What do we do about this? Do you just like outlast like who's going to press Q first, or what do you do?
Like in this fight, or
Just in general, like any of the fights where you both have your ults.
I don't know. I hold it until I die, which is probably the wrong answer.
I think you counter beat.
Or like I use it for Queen Alt. Like, yeah.
That's a good use for it. Is Queen Ult. The technical answer is do everything you can to kill their Lucio first, and then either he uses beat to live, in which case you will then have a free blade, or he dies and then you have a free blade, right? So what you don't want to do most of the time, if you're in a desperate situation, you got to do what you got to do. But most of the time, you don't want to pull blade until you've accounted for beat. Any of the other ultimates can be okay. Like if Queen gets her thing on you, if you have a Kiri, you can cleanse it, whatever, you're cool. If Tracer pulse bombs you, well, maybe you pull your own beat, something like that, or good luck, whatever. Well, it's very dependent, but I'm just like, you can manage other things. If they pull out a beat right when you blade, you're just kind of like, well, all right, that's sad, So just trying to make sure you get that resource out before you pull yours is going to usually get you more value. Okay. All right, so whether we're gonna have to play this, that we're being attacking, they're defending just by the nature of the point and where it is, right? So how do we approach this point? They have the same general setup of everybody's together, and then the tracer's out trying to get value from behind, right? Same play as before. So how do we manage this?
Either cut off the pinch from Tracer somehow, like play in an area that it will take her longer to get at us with, or
I think the int on them 5v4, or Soldier has to go on like a really hard off angle, but then that's kind of scary for him. I don't know.
So what I would do, I would have the four of you together, everybody except the Genji, be together. If you want to be doing exactly this, then sure, you keep moving in, whatever. Soldier stays with the core in this scenario because, first off, look at his line of sight on the point, which is what you need. Secondly, the Tracer's coming around. He's still the one who has to try to turn around and address that, keep the pressure on her to not go into you guys, right? He can heal himself. He can use helix on the ground. He's just got decent shooting right now anyway, headshots and all that. So he can mitigate the Tracer behind and get great line of sight. So he's good to be with everybody here. The Genji, we're going to want to kind of take this route a little bit, and he's going to play the same role that the Tracer does, but pinching, except they don't really have anybody other than the Reaper to take care of that. And if you know how to play Genji properly, are you, like, in a one-on-one, are you really going to be worried about a Reaper?
No.
Not really,
Yeah.
right? So this is a net win for us. So all 4 of us stay together here. The soldier is going to be very controlling of the pressure, whether it's keeping Tracer off or just the point. And then Genji gets the flank, and then you guys kind of do your coordination countdowns, whatever you identify the target. You move in together on that target. You guys from main, Genji from the side, kind of do your assassinations that way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so you wanted to use the Queen ult to get in. That's not bad, because again, the same line of sight that we were talking about with the soldier, you had that for your ult. The kind of concern that I would have with that, though, is that as soon as you do that, it really lessens the value of the soldier then, because they're going to disperse, right? They're going to disperse and try to sustain, which now you can capitalize on that, but then we have to switch from the plan we just came up with, because now soldier doesn't have his line of sight anymore, right? So as soon as that happens, I don't know, like it's Genji suddenly becomes really important, because he's the one who can keep up with the core. The soldier's going to be a little bit lagging now, right?
Oh, okay. Then
we just lost him.
Would you suggest the soldier be on a flank then in that scenario?
Well, ideally we probably would have just held the Queen ult.
Okay.
Let's just kind of look at it again here. Okay, so at this point, I would keep walking. I mean, who's in front of you anyway? Like the Moira, she has Fade. I don't know if she gets the purple or not, but and then the Reaper here, you can kind of just walk on the Reaper and try to get a kill on him anyway without having to use your ult, right? So probably the best call would be to do the same thing you were doing before, which is to kind of like move on, either move past them, flip the point, something like that,
Yeah.
or just find a way to move out, and then as soon as, like, if they're gonna walk back into you guys, then you can use your Queen ult back into them.
I see.
Get more of the team, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Opening with that, sometimes it can work. Don't get me wrong, that can be a good engage ult, but in this situation, I just don't think we got enough value out of it to make it worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty messy. We were able to kind of like survive well in the chaos to get enough kills that we came out well in the end. But it was kind of a messy fight. So to kind of clean it up in the future, those are the things we want to keep in mind.
I will also say, I thought it was the enemy queen who ulted, so I ulted.
Yeah, that happens all the
my
time.
bad. And now we don't have it.
Like theirs, what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, that's gonna happen. That is fine. I mean, I don't need to say anything because you know what happened, so we're good.
Yeah.
All right, so this is actually a really good fight to look at. There's a lot that you can break down here. I'm not going to go into every last minute detail, but there's a lot to see. So let's get to the actual fight part. All right. Is this a good setup, like positioning wise? Are we ready to do what we want to do, or does something need to change?
No, we would probably want to get closer, get the Genji on a angle.
Yeah. So I would push the Genji up and push the soldier up to kind of be closer to you, and then like you said, the whole core can kind of move up to more of this area if possible, something like that. That is going to be a great spot for you guys to engage. If you want to kind of take an angle this way to get on while you guys walk on them here, this is kind of your kill box. That works. That's a good plan. You do only have one ult realistically to work with here, but guess what? So do they, so that's fine. You know, we don't need to play conservatively because we only have one ult. It works out. So that would be a good plan. Let's see. Okay, so what's good about this is we kind of maintain angles, right? So you do get to kind of a more upfront position. We've rotated here so that our soldier still has kind of a line of sight here. Our Genji's with us at the same quarter moment. If we can, this is kind of small, but I'm assuming you're on your way anyway, but if you get right over here to kind of be with everybody anyway, this is a decent rotation. So that can work. we pull the coalescence. They have now flipped the point, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, what do we need to do? We weren't able to get a kill before the point has been flipped. We used an all. Okay, this is all fine. Nothing at this point is like, wow, that was stupid, right? This is all fine. What do we just need to do as a team at this point now that it has evolved to here?
Like stabilize basically.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
the
you're gonna
corner.
stabilize, and then who becomes your next target probably?
Go back for the Moira.
So let's, to be fair, let's kind of give it some time to see the stabilization first.
Which we
Didn't really
no,
stabilize,
we didn't
right?
stabilize.
So I'm just actually probably just gonna kind of leave it at that, but it just, yeah, and then it falls down to a series of 1v1s after that point. So if we had the opportunity to, yeah, just kind of step for a second, it doesn't have to be long, right? You don't want to just like do like a full reset all the way over here or whatever. You can just kind of pull back here, chill for a second, and then give your countdowns, go back in. It is positioning dependent, but probably Lucio or Moira, depending on who you can get to first, is going to be your best bet. And then as soon as, like, if Lucio speeds out or Moira uses her fade, you can't get to her anymore or whatever, try to switch to the other one, something along those lines.
Okay.
All right, so even before we get farther than this, do you want to try to walk in from this angle, or this one? Well, for convenience, label them as ABC.
I feel like A would be the best.
Yeah.
For the core with soldier.
Okay. Let's go over pros
Genji
and
doing the angle? I don't know.
let's go over pros and cons of each of them. All right. So what's our pro of going through angle A?
Closer to them and less line of sight, allowing us to get closer to them.
But we want line of sight for our soldier.
Then we
But the
can
soldier-
go to the third one.
Soldier gets line of sight.
Yeah, but you kind of have to force it.
you-
I
but you
prefer
have to
C.
force it.
As the soldier, I prefer C. Which is what I'm doing. I'm actually going C right now.
So for-
does that mean we go B?
So if we're talking pros and cons of A, then the pro would be that when the fight kind of happens, you're going to be basically on the point, right? You're not going to fight here, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to take a fight contest.
Mm.
That's the pro. The con is you are extremely restricted in your angles and your line of sight to here. And it's pretty up close. I mean, you could fight again if you held back here, but who's going to do that, right? That's not the right call. So then the cons are restriction in angles, line of sight, and you're playing into their proximity-based setup. So that's kind of pros and cons for there. If we go B as a core, pros and cons that way.
You'd be fighting probably
They can
at the
poke
corner.
at us if they. Tracer can set up more easier.
We don't really force out Tracer at all.
Yeah, you don't force out Tracer. Tracer's on the left of us.
I'm just saying
So
she
that-
can just set up as we go through there as well.
So the
That's
pro,
almost true for any of
Yeah,
them.
that's like all the angles.
So forget
pro
Tracer.
to this is that it's
Yeah.
going to be the fastest way to get to the point and the fastest way to take a fight.
Okay.
That's pretty much it as far as the pros go. The cons is that you are exposed for the entire way here, from any angle that they could have or they could take, whether the Tracer's here or anywhere. You're
Yeah.
just in a pit of poke potential or spam or whatever, just taking damage. And you're going to probably have to use your resources before the fight breaks out in order to get to the fight, and that's never a good thing. You're fighting uphill already in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Pros and cons of going the C route.
A lot of pros.
You're
A lot of
rotating
cover.
Most
We
of
can
that
set
in
up our
cover.
shark on a massive angle.
You're pushing out the
and
Tracer.
Yeah, we're also pushing out that tracer.
Yeah.
And it also allows us to kind of stabilize if we need to or play around the cover.
Yep, C is going to be your best bet because you have the most protection. You're only exposed for this area, realistically, right? You're protected through here. You force out any potential flankers that could be in that area. You have better line of sight options for how you want to engage from there, and then you're gonna walk in this way, and then your Genji. Let me clear this. It's getting a little messy here. You walk in this way, and then your Genji takes whatever kind of off angle you can from this way, and you kind of collapse on them on your terms, as opposed to here. If you go through this way, you're collapsing more on theirs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So C is going to be how we want to take it. Everybody but the Genji, and then the Genji takes the off angle from the side. Okay, so we do that. Sweet. We kill the Tracer. Perfect. We don't have the off angle from the Genji, but that's still okay because it's a 4v5, so we can still make it work anyway. Okay. Again, this is actually a really good fight to look at. So as it breaks out, there are a couple issues that we have here, as far as why we didn't get more value. So the Genji die, honestly, let's ignore that for now. That happened. Okay, cool. With what we have right now, what are the problems?
It's not together. Core's looking at different things.
Yeah, it's broken down into a series of smaller fights when our strength is by having our core together, right, and like overpowering a selected target. So as soon as we kind of fade, like Moira used fade to get back here, and then you as queen, you're walking into them. You have line of sight a soldier, but who are you going to be shooting on in the meantime?
JQ.
You have to,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, she's just gonna kill you. So you're splitting your resources just by positioning. Basically, you guys as a core, you got to stay back here and then just
Okay.
kind of walk through them this way. And the further you split and break it down, the easier it is for them just to get value from like Reaper burst damage onto a Moira or something, or the Moira can do all kinds of funny things.
Yeah.
Sticking together is gonna. And it's kind of, so you do get the kill on the Reaper, okay?
So
Cool,
would
sweet.
the target be better to, our target focus be better on the tank here and then, if you're gonna try to like, I guess, just kind of walk into them?
So the short answer is yes, but the reason is not because it's the tank. It's because
They're in the
have
front.
they're in the front and they have control of the point.
Yeah.
So you need to put the pressure on them. You're not going for the kill. You're going for pressure and to force them back. You control the point now, and suddenly they're in the position that we didn't want to be in before, of playing into us from here.
Yeah.
Right. So for that reason, you want to pressure them back. Not if you get a kill, cool, but the goal isn't to kill the tank. It's to make them retreat.
Okay.
That was a bad Lucio play for him, like on their end. I'm not talking to you. I'm like him going in there and dying.
Yeah.
That was a problem.
I've got you in my sights.
Yeah, like I say, it all just kind of fell down from when it broke out. Okay. It's not here, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So same kind of thing where we want to have a setup. We have the angle of point on our side. We're not playing into them, so that's good. We still want to send, same thing as always. We can keep our soldier here. That's fine for more power for the core. Send Genji on the flank. Do we want to walk up into them or to the right to the point? Do you think? Let's play a little bit more.
To the point.
So, what advantage do they have from the movements they've made?
They use shout.
Okay, and you know, okay,
It's the
so
Reaper closer. I mean, that's kind of their main.
Yeah.
yeah, they have closed it. Again, the difference in your compositions, because Tracer and Genji will say are, for the purposes of what we're talking about today, interchangeable. They're not, but for right now, they fulfill the same role, right? The rest, like the core, is going to be pretty much the same of the supports in the tank. So the biggest difference that we have is the Reaper and the Soldier. Hence, why we have a poke advantage and they have the brawl advantage, right? So again, that little bit of gap and distance is what's going to make or break how we play this most of the time. They had the foresight of saying, cool, let's use our brawl, let's use our Reaper element and go into their faces to try to force it to happen. And then if they need to retreat for any reason, because they pushed up, they retreat to the point and defend the point from us. with this positioning, right? Versus with what you said earlier when they were still back here, if we can kind of use soldier poke whatever, and then we maintain a line of sight as we move backward onto point, poke at them the whole way as they kind of follow us. They're probably going to have to use some sort of resources, or at least feel like they need to. And if you focus, if your pokes are focused on the same person, they're going to have to use resources to keep that person alive, most likely. They don't really have a lot of sustain or shields or anything like that, right? Their rotations are usually exposed. So you want to maintain a distance and kind of bait them as you retreat to the point, poke at them, and then when the fight does break out around here, you should have an advantage by then just based off of resource and cooldown usage. Does that work out?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's basically just a brawl diff there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. As you can see, this is once again the same play. Like, they have not really changed anything, right? Reason being, it's pretty much worked for them for the most part. So, like, why would you need to? They have their core here. Their tracer's kind of on a flank, ready to pinch on you where?
At the stairs there.
Yeah, this is going to be their zone to try to fight you guys, which is better for them as a brawl because it's a tight area. So, how do you play this?
We have to go into the tracer on the right.
Through the doorway? Like just go this way and kind of like overpower her, try to get a kill or something?
Try to rotate towards point.
Okay, so kind of take this path over, like the whole way over?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can. The concern I have with that is what we were talking about before about rotations being risky with this kind of a comp and using resources to survive those rotations. You want to make it as succinct as possible. So if you want to go in here to put pressure on this tracer, good call. You want to do that, kind of force her out. If you get a kill, sweet. But then as soon as you do, don't waste time. Just kind of take this path if you can. If you can, use speed to take this angle advantage on them if you have to, cool, because then you can still poke at them if they come in this way, or this way, or this way, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good advantage to amp the speed so that you can get the positioning, advantage, and abuse it that way. The farther and longer that the rotations go on, the faster it is for them to adapt. They can push up here, kind of brawl you here, or whatever angles they really want to.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't notice this yet, but we did switch from the soldier to the Cassidy. How does that change our playstyle?
We don't need as long a sideline. Like, we can play a little bit closer, mid-range.
So this also makes our comp much more, I guess, similar. We'll say it's closer to each other, closer to a mirror. Support's still the same. Tank is still the same. We'll say that Genji and Tracer serve the same role, and the Reaper and Cassidy. What is the just overall in the game of Overwatch? What is the difference between Reaper and Cassidy?
Reaper is better poke.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cassidy's better poke, and Reaper is better close up.
Yeah, but not by much, right?
Hinder.
The
Hinder,
the big difference is that he has more range. That's basically it. Because the Cassidy right click, roll, right click, hinder with it or whatever, that's a whole lot of upfront in your face burst damage, just like what Reaper does. Right? Reaper has a fade to get out of the fight. He also has his roll to get out of the fight. Right? Reaper technically has the TP, but you're not really going to use it in this situation. So effectively speaking, Cassidy in this sort of a comp is almost like a better Reaper because he has the same usefulness plus range. So who is going to be on our flank now? We had Soldier in here before. Do we still leave the Genji on the flank and Soldier, or the Cassidy in the same spot as the Soldier, or do they both go on flanks, or how do we work this?
I think just the Genji on the flank, and Soldier or Cass plays with the core.
Yeah, because again, he's feeling like that same kind of defensive DPS Reaper kind of role.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, same sort of situation. It doesn't really affect our playstyle, except that it adds the range element to it. So we can still chase people down and stuff like that, but we don't have to, suddenly convert to being a brawl now only or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, actually, hold on. Let me play that a little bit more. Okay, this is what the issue is. This is why the fight it didn't work out. We did the right thing of going on to the tracer and then continuing to go to the point. Everything we talked about getting that angle, that worked. They caught us though, right?
Mm-hmm.
They caught us, and we weren't able to react at least fast enough to, you know, turn around before they moved in on us, took advantage of their alt kills, all that. So in hindsight, watching this again, what could be different here to help?
We turn back onto.
Did we use shout?
I don't think so.
You did not.
Yeah, we should have maybe used some of our abilities to rotate to help us. I don't know.
The game, there's a bug that's happened sometimes where it like locks you out of going back to overhead. So we're watching your POV now.
Okay.
But yeah, no, something like that would have been good to, because you typically want to use that for the engage, but once again, your rotations are so, like, it's like a critical moment of exposure to this exact situation. So you have to do what you have to do to survive it.
Yeah, I
So
was holding it for engagement.
yeah, and like I said, that normally would be a good call, especially if you're defending. Then yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. But we're the ones making that rotation. We have to survive it. Our Lucia was caught a little bit behind because of the like the rotations that we're doing. She got caught in the Queen ult. Here we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, is it gonna let me? It's still not letting me go. Wait, whoa, that was the wrong number. Different key let me do it. That's weird.
Interesting.
Okay, let's see. Looking at our ult economies, how do we play out this fight that's coming up?
Be a little bit more aggressive, going with coalescence, even. And then if we need to clean out, we can do it later.
I got a question for coalescence. I use that to just get the Moira Fade and the Reaper and all that out, right? While
So
healing
there's
my team as they rush in.
Yeah, there's kind of two uses. Very similar to beat. It's actually very similar, where you can either use it as an engage ult or a sustain one, as the fight has evolved, right? So in this composition, where the Moira is part of the core, which of those do you think is going to be better, to engage or to sustain?
Probably to engage, no? To help the core push.
It can be, but most of the time, if you use Coalescence first, their gut instinct is going to be LOS. Use amp, use shout, do whatever, get out of that line of sight, back up to the point that they already have, and kind of almost like a BAB window, like make them waste it, right? Now, you're going to get more value than a BAB window would in this situation, of course, but you're more so going to force them to be conservative rather than use their cooldowns, most likely. Versus, if you guys walk to the point, you start your fight, and then you throw out Coalescence, then you're sustaining a little bit better with your heals, you're contributing more to the damage, because the point, by the nature of it being a point, is going to be easier for you to focus on somebody. They're not going to be super spread out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this sort of a situation, it's probably going to be better for giving your an advantage during the fight once it starts. So you have beat, you have Cole, and you have the JQ ult. Which ones do you want to use, and when do you want to use them?
Maybe JQ out first, and then Cole if needed in the middle.
JQ ult, but according to what we learned, I don't want to go in first, right?
Right.
So do we like beat in, or do we go in?
No,
And then
stop
beat?
with beat engage.
I think beat makes sense.
It should be Cole.
Then again, if I want to keep with the JQ pacing, then I probably should.
Well,
be
gamers, we don't have to ult. We don't have
fourth choice, no ult.
No
mid-fight.
ulting.
Yeah, that's the magic answer right there.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is like we don't use anything until we need it, And beat makes
Yeah.
the most sense when we need it because people will be low.
So if you're not on the point yet, like I said, unless for some reason they get super aggro into you or something, and then you suddenly need an advantage. If you're not on the point yet, save your ults for that moment. You don't want to use more than 2 in any given fight, no matter what it is. As soon as you use a third, you're throwing. So wait, take a fight, kind of push it out, see how it plays out. If the fight, let me get the kind of pen back. If the fight plays out where it is here, ongoing, because they're trying to keep you off the point, then you can talk about, well, frankly, any combination of the two of these, really. You have to be careful with the queen ult that you don't solo past them and they get caught out, of course. But it is a viable thing to use early on. It is a pretty good engage ult because it gives you an easy advantage to clean up and win the team fight pretty easily, right? So that could be a decent first one as long as you are set. So, for example, if you want to hold back just a little bit, the rest of the team starts to push in, and then you ult to meet with the rest of your team, and then you're grouped. This is still getting super messy. And then you're grouped again here for the rest of the fight to clean up from all the purples. That's viable. Okay, that's something that you could do. And then if for some reason, let's just say that they have, which they don't, but if they have theirs and they do the same thing to us, then we can use beat to sustain it, and that's all we need. Okay. And we should be able to still do the cleanup, something like that. That's a good plan. But yeah, the magic thing is don't initiate an ult engage unless you know, like, hey, they're taking the fight here, and we can't get past them. Okay, now we can use queen ult, whatever. Otherwise, you just kind of want to walk, see what you can do, and then save them for the point contest.
So here, pathing, where should we go? We decided to go this way.
Did you go this way here?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not so pros and cons. If you go this way, it's not bad because you're closing the distance and you have a lot of cover.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is good. At the same time, like, look how it looks for them if you guys pop out right here. It's a little easier for them to be able to kind of brawl you guys right here. So if you go out this way, you are more exposed. You have to be careful with your rotations, everything we were talking about before. But you can, like, get your Cassidy shots, whatever. You can kind of set up queen ult into them, something like that. So I guess the short answer is that either one is viable, but it changes how you play. So if you go out this way, you have to be fast, decisive, and, like, overpower them almost immediately as soon as you get there, and don't, like, dilly-dally in this area, because then suddenly they have the advantage. Or if you go this way, pay attention to your rotations. So, I mean, not to be non-committal, but either one can work. You just have to know how to take that angle.
Okay.
Okay, so we stacked our support ults, right?
Yeah.
At this point, do you want to do your queen ult?
No.
No.
You don't, right?
Used to.
Right, you used to, and they're both the support ones. And not only that, but also the one that you haven't used yet was your best engage ult of the options that we had. So, do you remember if you used it here or not?
I don't remember.
We can find out in like 2 seconds.
I did. Look at that.
Yep.
Okay. So hopefully you win. It'll be just because you used 3 ults and they didn't have any. Okay, yeah. So that was a win just by an ult overpower, right? Having said that, we've now kind of basically equalized the ult economy because Blade and Cole are going to be pretty close to each other. Knowing that it's a neutral ult fight, do we play on point? Do we push up?
We should push up.
Yeah, you push up, build your ult as much as you can, utilize that cast kind of range, just do whatever you have to do. Put pressure on them. I will say you would be better off being more in this area.
Okay.
Because again, you can kind of retreat pretty easily to cover point, and you have this better line of sight here, line of sight here, and you can kind of poke at them. Whatever way they approach you, you're good. If you are playing here, they're more brawl than we are. This is perfect for them. They're sitting here, they're going, all right, let's just brawl right into them. They're right here. So it's kind of an advantage for them, and we're denying this line of sight if they came in this way, right? So for those reasons, I'm not saying that like this isn't like a throw positioning, but you're probably going to prefer this generally.
Okay. We do a little.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to
merry-go-round.
watch. Any quick like sentence as to why that turned out the way it did?
Don't go merry-go-round.
I mean, that's part of it. Yeah.
We just played on an angle that was
We gave up the point.
that too.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just-
It was
Yeah,
very
that's what I-
reactive. It was very reactive to what they were doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This composition, the game as a whole right now is once again, it is about you playing the game on your terms, being more aggressive than them. You get the kills first. Just
Mhm.
like out Chad the enemy, right?
Yeah.
That's basically how it's going to work right now. So if you play reactive to what they're doing, it's super easy to capitalize on any level of passive or reactive or anything like that. So having your fight plan and then actually engaging that fight on your terms is way more likely to find you success than anything else.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's see, what is there?
That's fine. That's I think
See.
that's enough if you have to leave.
I'll kind of I'll just let it speed. Did you have any like questions before I do have to go?
No, I'm okay. You guys?
No, I don't have much.
If we're playing into a JQ mirror where they have JQ Soj and
Mm.
like a Genji, I never know what to beat for because I feel like I have to beat for all three of those, and obviously I can't.
Right.
Like, what do you even do? Run Curie so you can cleanse purple? Like, then what do you do about the DPS ults?
So most of the time, at least
Simply
again,
kill them.
well, sure. But also at higher levels, it's going to be Tracer Sojourn or Tracer Genji. You don't really see
Fair.
Genji Sojourn a lot. So in that situation, you only have to, that eliminates one ult because you're not going to beat for Pulse Bomb, right?
Right.
So that eliminates one of those. So you're going to be looking at either Blade or Rails, not both, and JQ, right?
Mhm.
So it's gonna be partly dependent on how the fight's going. So if they engage with the JQ ult, but they only catch 2 people, are you gonna beat?
Maybe not unless they're low.
Probably not, right? You just again you got to kind of try to sustain it, whatever, see what happens. If she queens in and gets all 5 of you, then yeah, you're gonna want to beat, right? If the let's say okay, so for railgun, you probably don't want to be for railgun most of the time. Let me just put it that way. Blade is a good one. So Blade and or Queen ult. If they're running Sojourn Tracer, probably try to save your beat for a good Queen ult. If she ultimately gets 2 and you guys can survive without it, then you have a free one for Rails or Blade at that point. So
Okay.
like there is no black and white answer to it, but you're able to manage the situation depending on how it plays out.
All right. Thank
You
you.
know
This
what?
was super, super helpful.
Yeah, it was really great. Thank you.
Hold on.
Gulp.
I
Alright.
was literally just about to say, like,
All right.
there was only one. Oh yeah, you leave, Storm.
But yeah, anybody does have questions, whatever, please DM me. It is very, very busy for me, but I promise I will get back to you at some point. So please just let me know. But you guys have a good night, and I will see you.
Have a good one.
See
All right.
ya.
Bye bye.
Okay, I was just about to say, we are the only team in the tournament you want us to play in. But literally 2 seconds ago, there's a team that